Okay, we are set. Good afternoon or morning if you're out west. My name is Vic Pepe, and we are welcoming you today to the first of the D&M web series, educational web series, calls Is Your Cybersecurity Ready to Defend? Without any further ado, we're going to jump right into the agenda today. A couple quick notes here. Take notes along the way. This deck will be posted, actually already is. If you go out to dmenterprisegroup.net, you go out to our website, to our content area, which is under the About, you'll see this deck and the provider deck's already posted. But let's jump into it without any further ado. I want to make sure, can I get a thumbs up from folks out in the crowd that you hear me and you see the deck? Excellent. Thank you, everybody. All right, we'll jump right back in. From the agenda, we'll go through some quick introductions today. We're going to hear two short keynote presentations from our sponsors and providers, Thrive Networks and Blue Mantis. Then we're going to jump into a panel discussion. And what's important here is we have seeded the panel with 10 questions. Honestly, if those questions don't get used today, we'd be very happy. We've opened up the QA function in Teams to allow you to post questions into a thread. We'll do our best to get to those questions first. In the event we're light on questions, we've done a survey of the industry and business, and these are the top questions that people have been asking according to Gartner and other sources. We'll stay in that panel discussion for about 25 minutes. Your microphones, because of the number of people we have in the meeting here, are going to remain on mute. And then we'll go through the conclusion and the next steps. Again, my name is Vic Pepe. I'm a managing partner. My background is I was a CIO of 5 different companies over a 20-year career prior to joining D&M 7 years ago. I understand what it takes to support businesses and to make sure they run with the right safety and soundness in the environments. On the phone with me is James Peters. He's a principal and he's our AI and CX strategist. There are numerous D&M teammates on this call today, and for the sake of time, I will not introduce everybody. From Blue Mantis, we have Rob Fitzgerald. He's a senior field CISO, and Nick Tempesta, who reps the Channels of North, and Channels is a means of engaging customers. So for those who aren't familiar with Channels, that's how D&M brings all of these good things to customers. On the Thrive side, we have Michael Dietz, who's the Regional Vice President of Channel Sales. And we have Eric Hastenstab, Vice President of Client Technical Solutions. Guys, thank you for joining. I'm going to do a little bit of about so we can keep the sales pitches to a low and the content to a high. D&M was founded in 2001, founded by Stephen Gerhardt. We have over 600 customers today, and we specialize in really a full service solution provider for technology. We consume a channel ecosystem and make it our business to know the best of the best in all areas: voice, data, cloud services, cybersecurity, labor, CX, and AI, to name a few. Much like today, we try to bring the best partners available in the marketplace. I think as we go on, you'll see that we've done so with some great experts. We do some consulting, and we have a supply chain of over 260 service providers. How we differentiate ourselves, and have since 2001, is via white glove concierge service. We work on your behalf, we wear your jersey, and we're only interested in your success. Thrive is founded in 2000, over 2,200 customers worldwide, 1,200 employees, and they focus on automation and orchestration, managed services platform. It's built on ServiceNow to optimize client experience. They've got a next-gen platform of products, services, and technologies, and advanced cybersecurity services. Blue Mantis, founded in 1992, over 1,500 customers, over 550 employees, and they provide digital technology service and strategic guidance on emerging technologies to help clients succeed. They help clients solve complex and technical challenges to meet ambitious digital goals, specifically around security. What we can tell you at D&M is we've worked with both of these organizations through the years. Our clients that utilize Thrive and Blue Mantis have been nothing but extremely satisfied happy with the service and the value that they receive. So thank you to the Thrive and the Blue Mantis folks for joining us today. We're going to start with a keynote from Thrive, and the topic here is the current state of cybersecurity landscape and common vulnerabilities. Take it away.
Good morning, good afternoon all. So kind of kick it off, there's just a handful of slides here that we're going to run through. So the first part is cybersecurity, obviously the road ahead. So first bullet point talks about in 2026, organizations prioritizing security investments really going to have, you really have to approach it from a program perspective. So when you look back years ago, it was either a set it and forget it, or if it was just a check in the box to be able to say, I've got this one-time kind of either an assessment or this one-time kind of a run through. That no longer applies in today's scenarios, in today's environments. So you need to have a continuous program. So whether that's anything associated with like OS patching, third-party application patching, vulnerability scanning, penetration testing, and ensuring your actual programs, the tools and capabilities are all up to the specs. So it needs a continual tuning, it needs a continual attention to make sure that you're successful. And without that, there's much more likely that you're going to be exposed and ultimately lead into a breach. Through 2025, they're talking about that there's going to be a 15% incremental spend on application and data security just because of the amount of impact that AI has had. So it was talked about earlier about from getting graphical kind of diagrams and drawings and images and alike. So AI does a lot from enhancing and optimization of operating roles, but it also is creating that much more of a drain and that much more of a risk from a cybersecurity perspective. So to help protect corporations, the expectation now is about 15% incremental spend. And to be honest with you, I think it's actually going to be higher than that. The last bullet point is based on adopting a cyber mesh or cybersecurity mesh architecture. So when you look at previously, companies would just buy tools, and each one of those tools in a defense in depth strategy or a layering strategy, you would define individual tool to solve a specific scenario. And maybe you're going to layer and overlap what the capabilities are, but the problem is they're many times disjointed. So they don't share information, they're not communicating with each other. It's you're going into each individual tool, finding out exactly what's happening with those specific logs, and then going to the next. So it makes for a very disjointed solution, whereas a mesh solution is allowing all of the different tools and applications to integrate with each other and communicate all of the findings to see exactly what's happening across the spectrum. Next slide, please. So a couple other things from an AI, I touched on it on the last slide. So ChatGPT by far is the fastest growing application of all time. When you look at Instagram, it took 2 years to get to 100 million users, and ChatGPT has done that in 2 months. So advancement is growing every 6 to 10 months, and you can imagine the speed of development that's doing that's contributing. So the amount of data that's being ingested into this platform, the amount of and it's just constantly tuning and constantly enhancing the capabilities in both positive and negative. So when you look at from a Microsoft commitment, from a Google commitment, looking at all these other companies, the amount of money that they're investing into this platform to add in operational efficiency is a huge positive. The downside is those same tools are available to threat actors and bad actors in the world, so they can continue to come up with new, whether it's malicious code generation, whether it's malware in general or viruses. It's going to continue to kind of propagate that sprawl of risk and risk vector that we have out there. Over on the right-hand side, you get the 2023 ransomware attacks are up 95%. That's definitely not going to slow down. So you'll continue to see that, unfortunately. The strains are getting that much more complex, that much faster. One of the big things that you're seeing is previously it would encrypt the entire file, then go to the next, go to the next, go to the next. And in this case, to speed up the encryption, they're only encrypting a portion of the actual file to be able to hit that many more files that much more quickly. In addition, it's leveraging multiple encryption algorithms to be able to define. It's not just one that you need to be able to kind of break it apart and kind of restore your data. you're having to go through multiple different levels of encryption and multiple different algorithms. So it makes it that much more challenging to be able to recover and from a ransomware attack. State and language-based autonomous behaviors are essentially that it's tailored to a specific region, tailored to a specific kind of, whether it's a country or region or a language barrier, or a language, I should say, and be able to kind of tailor that to be able to trick the user and be able to define exactly falling into a trap, essentially. AI, as I mentioned in the first column, is a huge positive, but also it's a huge negative at the same time. So when you look at the fact that so much more advancements can go into from an optimization perspective, that same applies whether it's ransomware, whether it's malware, whether it's viruses. All of that pushing through the AI engine is going to accelerate. From a government sector threat. Oh, sorry. So the double extortion, the exposure of personal data, essentially what that means is not only can you encrypt the data for a company and hold them as a ransom, there's the risk of once that bad actor grabs data, can look at what the exposure of personal data can also do. So you're actually hitting the company and the employees with a double whammy, essentially. Next slide, please. So from a government sector, when you look at SLED in general, it's been a significant impact to the industry. A lot of it is based on you've got older platforms, you've got outdated operating system, you've got budget constraints, you've got issues just in general, whether it's from a training or acceptance. It makes for a significant impact. Another big thing is you don't have, from a federal government perspective, like a federal advisement board, to be able to define here's the recommended process. And so oftentimes it's left up to the local schools or local towns to be able to make a decision on their own. And so what that means is a very disjointed kind of approach of different solutions, different technology, different capabilities, and implementation. And then, as I mentioned about budget constraints, that it all leads to a recipe for disaster. So City of Oakland obviously is one of the biggest ones that you see, is $1 million just in recovery costs. Nantucket Public Schools, I'm in Massachusetts, so Nantucket down by the Cape Cod, I think they had like 1,400 students that were, they completely shut down all four schools, and they were down for days while they were trying to recover. Next slide, please.
All right, Eric, thank you so much. Appreciate that. We're going to deep dive a little bit deeper in the Q&A part, because I think there's some more meat we can get from off the bone here. But thank you. That was a great overview. Over to the Blue Mantis folks. Rob? Rob, you're on mute, pal.
There we go. Thank you.
Okay. That was your due diligence. You're very safe and secure. No, we appreciate the courtesy. It's on you, buddy.
15 years as an expert witness in cybercrime have taught me three things. The first, regardless of verdict or outcome, everyone loses in the courtroom, except, of course, for the lawyers who charge a fortune. The second, how to keep clients out of the courtroom. And the third, how to help organizations increase their share value. And so the way that I think about things, right, is taking a pragmatic approach to cybersecurity. Everything Eric said was exactly dead on. It is coming faster. They're attacking organizations that are smaller and smaller, weaker and weaker. They're using automated tools like ChatGPT. But the number one thing when we think about security, risk, compliance, is you have to start with the end in mind. You have to have you have to build a roadmap or a plan. You have to know where you're going. And all too often, we see everyone on our side, us, Thrive, all of our competitors. One of the things that we see is organizations that go out and they've bought a bunch of tools, they've hired some people, and there's no organization or plan in where they're going. And I think, starting with the end in mind becomes the most critical thing. And I'm not saying you look 15 years out. I say you look 18 months out, 24 months out, really not much more than that, because as you saw, technology continues to change. And the number one thing that will keep you out of a courtroom, guaranteed keep you out of a courtroom, is policies and procedures. It is the most boring thing that an organization can do, but without them, it doesn't matter how many trainings you do, how many tools you buy, how many people you hire. As an expert witness, the first thing I go after is show me the policy on that. Show me when your people were trained. Show me when they were retrained. Show me how it applies to your business. And if you can't do any one of those three things, you lose. So we want to start with policies and procedures. It doesn't matter where you are right now. It doesn't matter if you have a very robust program. Come back and review your policies and procedures and understand. And the thing that's not being said here is the rules continually evolve. As your business evolves, the rules evolve. When the rules evolve, the policies and procedures need to evolve. And I think right now we're looking at a huge pivot point for organizations, because one of the big rules, one of the big policies and procedures you need to have in place as an organization to CYA, keep yourself out of the courtroom, is how you're addressing, handling, working with AI and all the AI tools, whether that is a Microsoft AI tool, or it's an Otter AI tool, or it's a ChatGPT tool. You need to have rules around this so that you are not exploited. And once you have the rules in place, everything else starts to become easy. You can build the team. There's really two types of teams that we are seeing right now. For organizations with less than 3,000 employees, we're seeing a decision between, do we build our own team and grow everything in-house, or do we look to partner and manage vendors or service providers to cover some of the security tasks that are required? For organizations with more than 3,000 employees, a lot of them are continuing to build the team. They're understaffed in security, understaffed in cyber risk, understaffed in cyber compliance, and they're looking for ways. What tools do we need? What types of people do we need? What types of outcomes do we need? And then you move to, let's buy the tools that meet those needs. But quite frankly, across the industry, we're seeing more and more organizations who even 2, 3, 4 years ago would say, we need this, we want this brand, et cetera, coming to us saying there's too many decisions to be made. Here's the business problem that we're trying to solve, the cybersecurity problem we're trying to solve. Can you help us select the tool or provide a service to manage that for us? Because we don't want to be on the hook for the capital expense. Next slide, please. When we look at strategic approaches, I urge our clients and our prospects and people in the industry to, one, know what you want your program to look like. Know what you need, know what you need for your business size, your business industry, the cybersecurity program to look like, the compliance program to look like, the risk management program to look like. And understand that you want to be able to, they can all be part of a same program, but you want to be able to segment them out so that when you're speaking to the clients that care, when you're speaking to your financial institutions, when you're speaking to your partners or vendors, you're able to clearly articulate where you are and what you need from them to be successful. Review and create the policies you need. Acceptable use policies have sort of fallen out of favor. They need to come back. Incident response policies, we continually see companies get hit with ransomware and have no incident response policy, which again, as an expert witness, I'm going to come after you and say this is negligent. An AI use policy is really important now, especially if you're looking to do any work with government contractors, and that's not just federal government. That's state and local government contractors. They're going to want to understand what's your policy on ensuring that the AI platform or tool you're using doesn't introduce bias, doesn't change outcomes that should be done. And then determine the skill sets that you need. Again, I'll tell you right now, if you have less than 3,000 employees, outsource more so that your in-house team can focus on your strategic direction and the outsource team can handle the day-to-day tasks. And then buying the tools that you need, right? Security brand is becoming less and less important, regardless of all the marketing dollars that are thrown out there. Security brands are becoming less important than their function. So these 4 steps will keep you out of the courtroom. You've set up your program, you have policies, you have the people and resources that you need, you have the tools that you need. Capture evidence from a compliance standpoint, be able to show that you're actually walking your talk. Test things, run a tabletop, have a pen test done, ask for your vendors or partners to provide reviews, ask the technology partners to evaluate for best practices, test things, make improvements. Don't just test them and say, okay, we'll get to those next month, next week, next year. Make the improvements and then report out, show that you're taking in information, you're capturing information, testing it, taking in the results of that, and reporting it back. If you can do those 4 things across the board of your organization when it comes to cybersecurity, you'll be able to stay out of the courtroom. While, quite frankly, it will also improve your price per share. Next.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Rob. That was really great. And we're right on schedule, which is awesome. Hey, a reminder to everybody who's on the webinar today, the Q&A button that's at the top of your Teams bar is a way for you to post questions. We're going to work to get to those, but in the spirit of moving on, we're going to dive into the Q&A, and this is a bit of a roundtable, so it's going to be a little loose. We're going to be looking for facts, opinions, experiences, and things of nature, and hopefully this is less of a monologue and more of a dialogue here. So without further ado, let's go back to Eric, if that's okay. Eric, from your vantage point, what are the most significant threats businesses are facing today?
Yeah, and one of the slides earlier was about the ransomware in general. So we looked at in 2023, it was 95% increase over the year prior. That's not going to slow down. So when we know that AI is going to have such a bigger impact, ransomware is because it's so valuable, the amount of money that they can get, the information that they can, and now reselling that, whether it's usernames, passwords, credentials, whatever it may be, all of that information is so valuable. It's going to continue to accelerate. So really, when you look at the biggest risk that you have is not only from the ransomware that you have, but also you've got all these dated platforms. So there's so many different platforms like you had Windows 2012 that just stopped doing any kind of security updates as of last year. You've got 2008 that's widely still out there, 2003 systems that are still out there, and all these other platforms that haven't received any kind of security updates in years in many cases. And so how do you protect those? And so it's making sure that, again, going back to having a good, solid program to make sure that, 1, you're identifying those platforms, but 2, putting in the right tools, people, and process to be able to identify and kind of protect those kind of crown jewels. The end of the day, as I mentioned about ransomware, it's not going to slow down. And so tools that you can put in, people that you can put in, processes that you can put in to help protect you from that is going to be the biggest ways to keep you safe.
Good. Hey, on the same theme, Rob, I'm going to go to you, but I'm going to share a small experience here and ask you to see from your vantage point. Maybe give the folks that are on the webinar today a little bit of insight. So, as I mentioned at the top of the call, I was CIO of 5 companies, and cybersecurity was incredibly important. There were a lot of check the box stuff during my time as CIO, but there were a lot of real vulnerabilities out there. The tools were expensive, the people were expensive, and to get the leadership team who are in control of the purse strings to truly understand the needs, the holes, and the risks was often a challenge. You say, hey, I need X amount of dollars for a new tool. And if it didn't check the box on an audit requirement, that's largely what people were driving off of. It was hard to get the money. We still hear that today from customers. Going through some lean times, we got to cut back. We don't have the money to spend. But that's kind of like saying, I got plenty of money for air conditioning, but no money for new windows to shut them so I can keep it in the house, right? And I'm sure there are 50,000 other analogies. Rob, what are the things that the people on the webinar who are listening today can do to position themselves, not to invoke fear, because when leadership teams get fearful of things they don't understand, nobody likes releasing the purse strings under that guise. What is it? How could they communicate? What are the tools they can use? What are the articles they could use? How could they make a case for these spends? So ultimately, because it's going to happen, they'll say no, they'll fear vulnerability, they'll get a ransomware attack, they'll be shut down for 2 weeks, and somebody's going to get fired. How do we avoid that?
Vic, it's funny because I'm laughing because when we as professionals go to the leadership teams, go to the executive teams or the board and sell FUD, it's our own version of ransomware. We're holding these boards, at ransom that they must do this, right? And so I think right. You're right. And the way that I have coached a number of CIOs and a number of CISOs is really 2-part. The first part is I go back to come up with the outline of a plan. Start with the end in mind. 18 months from now, here's where we are. 18 months from now, here's what we want to look like. Here are the things that we want to be doing. Here's what we want to be able to show how we're protecting data and our people. The best ally a CIO and a CISO have in an organization is the CFO. And in my personal experience and my belief is that the unfortunate thing is most CIOs, most CISOs do not have business training. They have a lot of technical training, but they don't have MBAs. And so going to the CFO or the controller if the business is smaller and working with them to understand CFO, where do you want to take the company? Where is this company going to look like what's it going to look like in 18 months? How big is it going to be? Where do you want us to be geographically? What space in our industry do you want us to be in? Secondly, I need to, as your partner, CFO, I need to build a security plan and program to help us get there. So my thought is, if I map out an 18-month program, would that be helpful for you? And then from there, we can start to track when and where I'm going to need money to build the program that you and I agree on. And what that does is start to get buy-in. And quite frankly, if you can talk to your other peers, you'll further broaden the ability to put a plan together that works. The number one thing that CFOs absolutely despise, believe me, I know this from years and years of experience, is the surprise, hey, I just realized our firewall licensing is going to come up in the next month. I need $60,000 for new licensing. Or, hey, I didn't realize that Windows 12 was going to be expiring and not is going to go end of life. I need some help here. We need, as professionals, service providers and CIOs and CISOs, we need to be able to have business conversations with using Excel sheets with dollars in them and timelines. And we need to hold ourselves and the business accountable for achieving those goals. And I think that's the big thing that I recommend is start today. Start trying to get weekly or bi-weekly meetings with your CFO to talk about, hey, where do you want to take the company? How can I best help you? What should I be doing? Let me tell you what I see happening. And let me put together a plan and show you what we can look like in 18 months. Not 36, not 5 years, 18 months. Because as Eric pointed out, the technology is changing way too fast to plan out 5 years in cybersecurity.
Rob, thanks. And you beat me to the punch, because I was gonna, and I'll agree. No one likes surprises, and even if you're a CISO who may or may not report to a CIO or a CTO, getting nickel and dime is, I need $100,000 for this. 6 months later, I need 200 for that. Oh, I forgot about this. It degrades trust.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when people feel like it's their own ransomware, because like, what am I gonna do? Say no? You're telling me I've got this vulnerability. But thank you for that. Hey, Eric, we have a question from Michael Rayner on the webinar. It says, what are your best recommendations for establishing the right framework for designing an organization's cybersecurity end state? See slide 11, seems to be a good start. I'm interested in learning how to create that roadmap without making a sizable initial budget expenditure.
Yeah.
I guess the key word here is sizable, but we can come back to that. Eric, it's all yours.
Got it. And so from a framework perspective, so Thrive aligns to CIS frameworks because it's the CIS 18 specifically. So, and what you're finding within that framework is that it maps directly to many other different frameworks that are out in the industry. So depending on if you have specific compliance, specific regulation requirements that you have to align to, or if you're looking from a general practice that applies to kind of much more broad stroke, our recommendation would be aligned to a CIS, as I mentioned, CIS 18.
That's fantastic. Thank you for that. Hey, while I have you, let's stay on question number 2. COVID hit, everybody went home, and the universe has not been the same since. There are lots of situations where people are full-time remote, they're hybrid work, office and remote, but I would say there's still a more significant number of remote workers than ever before, and the trends are not changing. From a cybersecurity perspective and the strategies required for work from home outside of VPN and virtual desktops, maybe you'll include those. Mm-hmm. How has that shift of remote work impacted cybersecurity strategies as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, I liken it to the old kind of architecture was always this castle and moat type of approach, where you built this castle, you've got a moat running around the whole thing, and you've got this drawbridge, and it really gave this false sense of security to say that, okay, all my employees are hiding behind this firewall, they're all protected, and so my servers here, my people here, everybody's protected. Well, obviously, they've dramatically changed, not only from a COVID perspective of users working in a hybrid environment or all fully remote, but also where your data is, where those crown jewels are. So you've got SaaS platforms, you've got PaaS platforms and IaaS, and you've got all these different cloud platforms that are all over the place. So it's no longer an individual user that's sitting behind fortified walls. It's a user that's sitting at home behind a Xfinity or a Verizon or whoever the actual device that they're sitting behind, open directly to the internet. And so how do you protect those users? And when you look at the impact to your business, it still go back to the biggest breaches, the biggest risks are always, and unfortunately, it's people. Because everybody's running, everybody's moving through things so quickly. People click on links, open files, they go to bad sites, whatever it might be. So really kind of ensuring, how do you protect those users? And so from our perspective, we'll oftentimes come up with from a package that says, here's the endpoint detection that you have to go in. Here's the training, the security training that need to be aware of. Here's the DNS filtering, because you're on your own in that case. And so therefore, if you get lured into a bad site, how do you know that's a bad site or it's not meeting the corporate compliance? And then again, from a security and awareness training, making sure that that user knows what to be vigilant for, what to be on the lookout for, what not to click on, what to do in a situation, and what to communicate back to IT. I don't trust this. This doesn't look right, and raise that awareness and make sure that you raise that concern back to the IT group.
Awesome. You know, user curiosity has existed since the day I stepped foot into the technology world. So nothing's changed. The format by which people are curious has changed clearly, but people are curious for sure. Hey, I want to remind everybody, if you do have a question, use the QA function. If we have some time at the end with the hand raise, we may have an opportunity to open up for some voice. But we have 67 people on the line, and we're trying to keep some sort of order and agenda here. But happy to get to questions posted in the Q&A. Hey, Rob, I'd like to go back to you, and we're going to skip 3 and go right to number 4 because I think there's a nice segue into the last bit of feedback you gave us. So people are starting with the end in mind. They're putting this entire play together. They sat down with the CFO. All great stuff, all stuff like I'm grinning ear to ear because I think that will help build trust. And when you build trust, people allow you to do your job because they believe you're doing the right thing. How about number 4? How do people go about prioritizing this work? You know, they build out this roadmap and they've got, you know, a number of things they have to do. You know, what are the steps to prioritize that? We'll give you a couple minutes here.
So Vic, I think when I think about how to prioritize, there's really 3 strategies to use, right? The first is, what's the low-hanging fruit? So, for example, we still have a number of organizations, we come across them every day, that have not rolled out MFA, or more clearly, they will tell you, oh no, we have MFA in place. But what they have is MFA for O365. They do not have MFA for their environment. They do not have MFA for their databases, for their network, or anything else. And so you say, okay, listen, let's instead roll out MFA for your entire environment, and let's turn on SSO, right? And single sign-on to be able to help protect the organization just a little bit better. The other side, so that's an example of low-hanging fruit. The other side is high criticality things. What are the big issues, biggest risks that exist, and can they be addressed in a timely manner? Can they be addressed in a way that makes sense? Sometimes they can't, right? Sometimes you're looking at, hey, we have 200 servers, they're running 2008 or earlier. We have to figure that out. We're not going to be able to do anything right there just yet, but what could we do to increase visibility, or what could we do to protect this high risk environment? And then, of course, the third is the call out. What are your customers, if you're a B2B business or you're a regulated business, what are your customers or regulators requiring and pushing for you to have more of? More often than not, evidently enough, it's policies. Do you have a WISP in place? Do you a written information security plan? Do you have a program in place? Do you have a written incident response plan? We want to see that. So those are some ways to say low dollar, high speed turnaround. Let's look at that. For the bigger issues, you sit with your CFO and you say, so guess what? In 12 months, we are going to need to replace all of our firewalls, and we have, pick a number, 27, 35 firewalls, whatever it is, 70 firewalls, and they're all going to be end of life. We need to budget for that. We need to figure out what we want to buy, and we're going to need to do this. Now, we have a year, we have 12 months, but you need to know about this now so that there are no surprises. And we want to start figuring out, coming up with a plan to solve that, so that we're able to do this as seamlessly as possible.
Cool. Thank you, Rob. Hey, we have another question from Jasmine, and I'm going to go back to you, Eric. You seem to be in the sequence of the QA man.
Okay.
Jasmine asks, what are your recommendations for small size, less than 20 million annual revenues and less than 100 employees, non-for-profit associations that use hosted solutions with regards to a cybersecurity roadmap?
Yeah, and I think that the challenges are going to be the same regardless of the size of the organization. I mean, so I think for years many different companies kind of took the approach of, well, they'll go after all the big players first. They're bigger bullseyes. Well, there's still and unfortunately in a lot of the smaller organizations, and I'm not saying that this is a small organization, but there was the mindset that, oh, I'm going to be flying under the wire, and people aren't going to be coming after me, or hackers aren't going to be coming after me. So when you look at from a hosted environment, and whether that's a SaaS environment or infrastructure as a service, to me it's always starting from the people and kind of working your way out. So if the people are the biggest risk to an organization, unfortunately, those are the ones you're curious, as you mentioned earlier. Those are the ones that are going to be either clicking on a link, opening up something, going to a site, or doing some kind of action that might create an exposure. So from that perspective, I would work on not only, as I mentioned, Rob mentioned about the MFA capability and ensuring that single sign-on is widely utilized throughout your platform, but ensuring from an endpoint that secure operating systems are patched, EDRs in place, ensuring that the user is vigilant, the training that I mentioned, and ensuring that they are protected. And then once you've built that out, then I find that you're progressing further into the cloud. So certain cloud environments, you may have control to be able to put in your own kind of defined security practice and programs and solutions. Whereas it's a SaaS environment, you're going to be relying on someone else. Like a Salesforce is going to have their own security components in place, aside from obviously MFA and single sign-on and the like, but they're going to be responsible for the infrastructure, the backing up, and the like. So hopefully that answered your question. If not, I can certainly expand.
Great. And Jasmine, if you have any follow-up to that, you can just post that on the thread in the Q&A. We'll certainly come back to that. Same for you, Mike. Hey, Eric, let's stay with you. And let's go backwards a little bit here to number 3.
Okay.
You know, and I'm going to be more specific than the question suggests. So here this says, what are the critical components of a comprehensive cybersecurity strategy? And I know really is a long answer there, but give me the top 3.
Yeah.
Like if I had to go 1, 3 elevator speech, what are the top 3 things that I just got to have in my comprehensive strategy?
Yeah, and so from our perspective, it's oftentimes we're actually trying to take a step back with clients and really kind of go through from an assessment perspective, really find out and dig into what do they have and what do they think they have and what do they really have. So you're going through and finding out whether it's an IT operations assessment or whether it's security risk assessment, you're really defining exactly what's in the environment today. And then you can identify, okay, here's your biggest need. Here's the things that you'd be able to kind of solve. Or you can take the approach, obviously, the low-hanging fruit that Robbie mentioned earlier about being able to define, again, I hate to keep on going back to the end user, but to me, that's one of the biggest kind of exposure points. So therefore, I would focus on those. So defining the actual tools, the practices, the programs, the capabilities that you're protecting that actual user. But again, the important thing is it's not just layering on tools. It's layering tools that have the ability to integrate together, to be able to communicate, to be able to have, you're not defining individual layers and isolated silos. It's meant to have that ability to make sure that it's cohesive and that you know that this data is flowing. I've protected here, I can see it here, and I've protected there. It's also flowing into this environment. And when I say flowing into the environment, You'll hear SIM and managed detection and response used to kind of interchangeably. Be able to collect all of that information from various platforms into that cyber mesh that Gartner talks about. Be able to collect all that information. Be able to say, I have all these disparate tools that previously worked together in individual silos, but now I want to be able to work them together as a cohesive strategy. So
awesome. Thank you for that. All right. Hey, Rob, we're going to come back to you. In talking with CISOs and people in the industry, and I'm going to maybe even date back 3 years ago, there was a lot of talk about machine learning inside of cybersecurity stacks. Number 6 is an interesting topic. What are the latest innovations in threat detection and response that business should be aware of? What's happening now with the tools? What are the innovations that are either here upon us that maybe people are late to adopt, or that are emerging?
So I like how Eric mentions the cybersecurity mesh, and quite frankly, while it's an older concept, it's a newer terminology that's being used, right? And why that ties to question number 6 is because a lot of the tools post COVID have become more integratable. There's a lot more ways for the tool to collect and share data, not only collect data, but collect more types of data and share data. And then from that, using machine learning, being able to more quickly detect anomalous patterns and changes in behavior, right? At the end of the day, the way that tools, and quite frankly, most individuals are able to detect a bad actor in their environment is because the actor doesn't know the environment and does something that is an anomaly within the environment. Now, you have to be watching for that, of course. You have to be collecting that type of data. But if you are, you can start to see that. And so these new tools that have come out, and I mean, there's a number of vendors, firewalls, XDR, MDR, however you want to call it, network detection tools that are actively looking and correlating multiple activities or computer processes to determine, hey, is this a bad process or a good process? Or, hey, I'm not sure. And so that's nice because it's quite frankly speeding up the time to detection and reducing the overall risk, because the next step with these tools is to say, do you want us to automatically, if we confirm that it's bad or are not sure if it's bad, do you want us to isolate that machine? Do you want us to, if you were to think of each of these machines and a virus in a computer network as a school classroom, and one machine has potentially chicken pox in the classroom. One student has chicken pox in the classroom. We know how fast chicken pox can spread, especially if you're old like me. Before they have all of our children have grown up with inoculations, but I grew up with, hey, it's spreading, and if your brother gets it, you're getting it too. And so I think
chicken pox party. Yeah,
chicken pox parties. That's right.
Party.
That's exactly right. Measles too. They would do it with the measles too. That's the era that I grew up in Vic. So I think the great thing is the functionality that the tools are bringing to the table using machine learning, using automation, is incredible. What will be really interesting to see is how AI plays into this, and if it's true AI or if it is machine learning, if it's AI, pre-AI with machine learning type of functionality. Now, let me just throw out another interesting thing is that on the detection side, the teams that are doing the detection, whether that's SOC analysts or incident responders, the ability to, quite frankly, Google or lean into a ChatGPT to ask for clarifying information, ask for examples, ask for support are incredibly high. One of the trends that we are seeing, and we see this come and go every few years, is we're seeing much more attackers trying to live off the land, which means using just the tools and functionality of the computers, the servers themselves, as opposed to introducing other tools. And we're starting to see that happen again. And one of the reasons we can see that, and I know I'm expanding beyond your question a little bit, and I'll wrap it up. But one of the reasons we can see that is because of the total number of CVEs, vulnerabilities, known vulnerabilities that have been identified that can be exploited. Last year alone, Statista.com, the aggregated, they report that there were over 29,000 CVEs just in 2023. Think about that for a second. So that's new vulnerabilities. That's on Fortinet, that's on Microsoft, that's on Palo Alto, that's on Ivanti, it's on every single type of vendor that we use. And so it's a ton, right? And so the automation response helps identify risk and, quite frankly, stop it once it's identified much faster than even 3 or 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you, Rob. Hey, we're gonna play speaker's choice here, Eric. Okay, you're the last question of the day for this round. You've got the balance of questions up on this sheet that we didn't get to, and I'm gonna let you pick speaker's choice. Which one do you like, buddy?
Good question. Let's see. One of my predictions. Let's see.
Shall we phone?
I can be short and sweet on that. So on the what are predictions and how businesses should prepare? To me, it's don't take it on your own. Don't try to go on your own journey on your own. There's a lot of expertise out in the industries today. Going back to your point, Rob, earlier, if you're a 3,000 employee or less company, don't try to take this on your own. There's too much to learn, too much that's out there, too many different kind of threat actor kind of points that are kind of constantly attacking your business. And if you try to go on this journey by yourself with a small team, unfortunately, you're just going to get caught off guard.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Hey, I am going to move us forward a little bit. We got 7 minutes left, but I think there's going to be a bit here on the key takeaways, and I'd like to share some of my own insight and feedback. To that point of not taking it on your own, Eric, well, let's go through key takeaways here that I wrote down. In no specific order, test again, and check your results. Mm-hmm. Key takeaway here, and I can tell you from having been in the seat and working with dozens and dozens of clients in this space, this is also an area that's light. Policies are critical. Key takeaway, absolutely, policies are critical because as Rob said, you've got to be able to defend. It's one thing to have an accident, let something slip by, make a mistake. An employee might make a mistake, something might not be caught. But if you don't have a policy that suggests you have a way of doing it, that's negligence, disregard. So there's a big difference in court and really in the court of public opinion as well. At the end of the day, something happens to you guys with malware or ransomware, it's bad no matter what. But if you have a policy and somebody missed it, it's a lot different. Attacks are rising, no surprise there. And they're happening at a rapid pace. And the tools and the threats and the technologies are continuing to need to adapt it. I think personally, if you don't have some sort of machine learning type of capability in your tools, and the best analogy anybody ever gave me on this, hey, think about your networks and the behaviors on your network like an oval racetrack. What happens at an oval racetrack? I'm on the outside on the straights and I'm on the inside on the turns, right? Great. If all of a sudden somebody's hugging the wall and going to scrape their car along the outside and really go for it, which we've seen in racing, it's not every lap. It's like push comes to shove. And if all of a sudden I see a car swerving to the outside on the turns, we know it's out of bounds and the alerts are going to go off and we're going to detect it. There are many, many, many analogies to use there. That's one I happen to like. It's simple. It's also one you can bring to your leadership team or your CFO to explain them why tools and why they detect sort of the patterns of traffic and when something's out of bounds is great. See what else I have here. No one likes surprises. Boy, if I can't tell you that over the last few decades of me being in this business, whether I'm working in corporate America or whether now in the last 7+ years being in channel and serving customers like all of you, no one likes surprises. And often I get calls from our customers that says, hey, Vic, I need your help. I got to pitch this. Can you look at my deck? Or all of a sudden I got this problem. How am I gonna sort of get this approved, or what's going to happen here? Nobody likes surprises. So to the extent you can create a roadmap for your cybersecurity framework, lay out the budget, prioritize the work, right? And give simple meaning to the threats, the vulnerabilities, and then the opportunity to close them. That will go a long way. I will guarantee you this as well. That will go a long way for you in your career. You'll be seen as the person who's measured, managed, able to communicate, and that will expand your opportunities beyond what you might think. Very, very, very valuable. Those are the key takeaways from my perspective. Eric, back to you. Any other key takeaways that you'd like to share here? Give you 30 seconds.
No, I think we're good. I think you pretty much hit it right on the head. I mean, I think there's definitely a lot of valuable information that was shared. And like I said, I appreciate the time.
Good. Rob, any key takeaways? I'm saving one for the end here.
The only thing I would say is don't go it alone. It's just not worth it. But I appreciate being here, getting to participate. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Rob, I'm going to end on ringing that bell one more time. And it's difficult in this seat. We have customers on the phone, and it sounds a bit self-serving. But I could tell you this. 7+ years ago, 7.5 years ago, when I really dove headfirst into the channel, and my colleague Tim Reese is on the line, and he'll probably nod up and down here. When I opened my eyes outside of working in corporate America about what was possible with the help of an ecosystem like this, the very first thing I did was I called Tim and I said, we suck. And that's a true story because, when you come up and you want to do things and, when you buy things with knobs, you want to turn them. Leverage is the key to success. Partnerships are the key to success. Having strategic partnerships are the key to success. And what I can tell you from a fractional use perspective, using providers to help you in this space, especially while it's ever changing and evolving, will cost you less. It will not cost you more. And you're getting people who do this all day, every day. So while you're struggling for budget, but you want coverage, you want defense in depth strategies, you want to make sure you're right, you want to make sure your compliance is right. Leverage the help of professionals like this. D&M's job is to evaluate the ecosystem, work with our customers to make sure that when you come to us with a problem, or you come to us with a problem you want to solve, rather, that we know the ecosystem and we can stop you from having to interview 12 people, and we can give you 2 or 3 and you could make your own decisions. So the big question is your cybersecurity ready to defend? That's a question you have to really ask yourself. If you want to dive deeper, you can schedule a call with us. Myself, James, and the rest of the team are available. We will follow up with you. Our consultation is always free of charge. And these assessments that come up front, whether it be Thrive or Blue Mantis, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. They're not as expensive initially at the onset as that you might think. These people on the phone are very available to come on the call so we can deep dive and know more about you, where you are in your plan, where you may or may not need help, and to quickly solve for that. At the end of in the next hour, you're going to receive an email with a link for a survey. Please, please, please fill it out. It's how we make these webinars better and more valuable to you. No feelings hurt, no criticisms. If you don't like something, be honest with us, please. And we're going to work to continue. And then again, for those customers who have joined today, in the next 24 to 36 hours, you'll be receiving an email with a virtual gift card. As promised, $25. Spend it on whatever the heck you like, but hopefully it'll buy your sandwich for the lunch today. It's exactly noon in Central Time. Tim, you're going to jump in?
Yeah, just so everyone knows, those gift cards are coming from a company called Gift-O-Gram. So if you don't receive that today, please check your junk mail or your spam mail. Gift-O-Gram. You'll be able to select where you want the gift card to be from. So thank you very much for joining.
Great. Thanks, everybody. We finish on time. Have an amazing day. Thank you for joining.